With the nation and our city seeing the effects of climate change, trees are more important than ever. For fresh air and water, shade to lower temperatures, and community connection. KC Trees is DC's local nonprofit dedicated to protecting our city's tree canopy and planting trees for people that need them the most. They organize residential, school, and community tree plantings, plus environmental education and land conservation. And they want the city to achieve a 40% tree canopy by 2032. You can help them reach that goal by visiting kctrees.org/give. Your gift is tax deductible and will go directly toward tree planting efforts in historically underserved communities. Support DC's trees today by giving online. Just head to kctrees.org/give.
Today on CityCast DC, Alexandria has moved to ban single-family zoning, which is a kind of wonky concept, but it's one that has big implications, and they ought to matter to you, even if you don't live in Alexandria. Teo Armus of the Washington Post is here to explain why. Plus, CityCast's Julia Karen is here. We are going to talk about a new debate over closing Metro for repairs. And we'll be ending with a special segment sponsored by the Heurich House about their annual Christmas market, which begins tonight. Today is Friday, December 1st. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Teo.
Hey, Michael. How's it going?
Good, good. And Julia, good to have you back on. Before we get to today's topics, I understand you have a quick question for everyone.
I promise it will be quick. The question is, how into the giving spirit are all of you? And the reason that I asked this is because if you've been listening to the show and reading our newsletter, Hey DC, then you know that we have launched a membership program, which is a big deal. And I'm really excited about it because it means that you all the listeners, all the readers, you get a chance to support something from the ground up. As Mike has probably opined a couple of times, we live in a city where everyone knows everything about the White House and can probably power rank your favorite Iowa caucus that you've attended. But maybe you don't know about why the heck Metro is closed or delayed, which, fun fact, we will be talking about today. If that local journalism matters to you, and I know it matters to all of us who help make the show and the newsletter, then you should join. You get an ad-free version of the pod and first dibs on live events, which means more local news, which is always a good thing. Memberships start at $8 a month. Just head to membership.citycast.fm. That link is also in our show notes if you want to become a member.
Red hot. Thank you, Julia.
Always.
So, Teo, you covered a pretty pitched controversy in the Post about Alexandria, which, like a lot of inner suburbs, is dealing with there is not enough housing. Housing is too expensive. What do we do about this? They have, like a lot of inner suburbs, like a lot of outer suburbs, a lot of zoning left over from the 50s and 60s and 70s that says, like, you can only have one house with a yard on a plot. And there has been an effort to change that so they can build more. What has happened and what's the latest?
Yeah, exactly. Basically, the kind of thinking behind this idea, right, is that Alexandria's pretty close to DC. It's pretty close to where the jobs are, where the transit is, and the way that, or sort of the rules that have existed for using land are just pretty inefficient. If you can have two, apartments on a plot of land instead of, just one house, that's ultimately just a better way to use the land, allows more people to live there, and ultimately might end up making the housing a little bit cheaper. So on really early on Wednesday morning, I think the vote was at like close to 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so early.
They love their late night meetings in Alexandria, They passed this big proposal called Zoning for Housing, Housing for All, that got rid of single family only zoning in Alexandria and did a whole bunch of other, kind of arcane, wonky stuff with zoning, basically just with the goal of paving the way for more housing and more affordable housing in the city.
So this has become, like it was sort of alluded to in the 2020 presidential election, this has become kind of a national political issue. And it's sort of a weird one because the more left side in this case is also the more free market side, which is to say, like, you own this piece of property, you should be able to do what you want with it. If you want to turn the house into 4 apartments or knock down the house and put up an apartment building, you should be allowed to do that. And the more conservative side has been like, no, we have to, enforce rules on what people can do with their property to preserve the character of the neighborhood. That's what came out at this hearing you covered, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it is a national political issue, but I think the thing that's really interesting about the politics of housing is that so much of this stuff gets decided at the local level. And especially in a place like Alexandria or DC, right, which is just so overwhelmingly blue, the kind of like normal right and left of politics don't really apply. You have people making arguments for something like zoning for housing, and this was certainly true at one of the public hearings on this. Saying it's good for social justice and racial justice because it kind of undoes the racist legacy of redlining. People who say it's good for the environment because it ultimately cuts down on sprawl and means more people can live close to the metro. And then also people saying, there were some people saying, I'm a Republican, I'm a political conservative, I believe in limited government and property rights and the free market, and the government should not, have the right to tell me what I can do on the plot of land I own. So it's kind of like these, odd political bedfellows. The same is certainly true on the other side in terms of arguments people make as to why, they think that single family only zoning should still exist.
All right, so you had mentioned that this meeting went to like 1 a.m., which means I imagine that people had pretty strong feelings about all of this. What did people have to say about how they feel about single family zoning?
Yeah. So really, actually, there were 3 meetings now that I think about it. And those 3 meetings were the last set of a much larger like year of meetings.
Got it.
One of which I think was on a Tuesday earlier this month. Another was on a Saturday. And then the actual vote, no residents were even allowed to talk. It was just sort of the council members kind of debating amongst themselves until 1 a.m. But yeah, I mean, people have all different sorts of thoughts on this. I think, again, when it comes to housing, it sort of like hits you literally where you live, right? There's a lot of kind of long time older homeowners who said, I bought into a neighborhood when it looked like this. And I don't really want that to change. And they're kind of afraid of what might happen and what the effect might be. And you can definitely, sort of see some of the anger and frustration in their comments. There was one person who said all the city council members deserve to be spanked at the hearing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a negative thing, right?
Yeah, definitely sort of spanking as punishment. A lot of frustration there. I mean, there were multiple people who, at various points compared density in Alexandria to the Gaza Strip, which, I'll let you decide what you feel about that. Someone made like a particularly sort of racist comment about quote unquote deserving blacks, that a lot of the city council members, they basically just stopped the meeting and they were like, nope, we're not going to talk like that here.
But the theme throughout these is the idea that if you change the rules that make it easier to, say, knock down a house and put up a building with apartments, it will lead to significantly more density and making it easier to afford. And therefore, if you are a hostile person, therefore the neighborhood's going to be overrun with poor people. So you also note in your reporting that the practical impact of this is actually going to be pretty limited. So the idea of this like radically changing Alexandria is a bit hyperbolistic.
Probably, right? But again, I think the tricky thing with zoning is that it's not the government saying, okay, we will build a house here, right? Or like this thing will happen. It's sort of loosening the rules for what might happen. So theoretically speaking, if you own a single family house somewhere in the middle of Alexandria, which is where a lot of the single family neighborhoods are, under these rules, where you have a single family house to your right and a single family house to your left and a single family house across the street, you could potentially have, a fourplex, so like a small, 4-unit building where each of those houses are right now. That means more people who need to park on the street, right? Some people think that means, right, like more trash, more, sewage going into the sewage system, like all these things that you're sort of used to having a certain kind of infrastructure for are, suddenly just going to have to contend with a lot more people. It could also mean that, those single family houses stay there as long as you stay there, right? And no developer, no homeowner decides to end up converting their single family house into, a duplex or a set of townhouses or whatever. It's sort of opening the gate for something to happen, but it's not actually ensuring that it's going to happen. And I think that's what tends to make people really afraid.
Are there reasonable projections, that you put any stock in terms of what this is likely to lead to in the next 10 or 20 years, in terms of how many new things get built and what it will do to prices and what it'll do to, infrastructure, population, number of kids in schools, things like that?
The number you brought up is right on the money. That's actually a number that, city planners themselves have put out there. There's something like 9,000 single family lots, and just 66 of them are going to be converted to denser housing. So not that many, but again, that's based on kind of their analysis of the real estate market. I think the general idea here is that, it's just basic supply and demand. Like the more housing you add, the more sort of costs will go down, or really costs will just like stop continuing to go up and up and up and up.
So what's the future of this? I know Arlington passed something similar. That's now like tied up in court. Can we expect something similar in this case? What do you forecast in that front?
I mean, that's a really good question. No one has explicitly told me they're going to be suing over this, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Alexandria also has elections next year. I could certainly see this kind of becoming a big topic in city council elections and the mayoral elections. I think there's probably going to still be a lot of debate over this. Zoning for housing, the initiative that led to this, is really, we just ended phase one, actually. So, there might be a sort of a whole other set of changes that, end up kind of coming up the pipeline next year, maybe the year after that.
Hundreds of kids in the DC area spend the holidays at Children's National Hospital. You can make the season brighter by giving them hope, healing, and holiday magic. When you donate to Children's National, you light up Dr. Bear, the hospital's mascot, and power world-class care and research. As a nonprofit hospital, donations make a big difference to meet patients' most urgent needs. Your gift helps patients like Alfie, who came to Children's National as a baby with a life-threatening infection. Thanks to expert care, he is now healthy and home with his family to celebrate his birthday next week and the holidays this December. Give now. Brighten kids' days in the hospital. Show your care. Light up Dr. Bear. Donate today at childrensnational.org/give. That's childrensnational.org/give. Happy birthday, Alfie, and happy holidays to all.
Hey friends, are you looking for a way to ring in the holiday season? Then come join the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. as they present their annual extravaganza. It's called The Holiday Show. Running December 2nd, 9th, and 10th at the Lincoln Theater, this year's edition promises more laughs, more fun, and more surprises than ever before. It's complete with disco dancers, sparkly snow, over-the-top costumes, their amazing vocal ensembles, and even an appearance by Santa Claus. So break out the sparkle and reindeer antlers. You will not want to miss out on this popular holiday concert, but act fast, as tickets always sell out. That's The Holiday Show, presented by the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C., playing December 2nd, 9th, and 10th only at the Lincoln Theater. Get your tickets today at gmcw.org. That's gmcw.org. All right, so debate afoot with a more immediate impact and a less racist tenor is about Metro. The plan is to close a few stations for repairs, which they have to do every now and then. And the idea was, let's do it over the holidays because there's less people going to work. All of a sudden, there's some significant opposition to that, and actually gets to a pretty interesting tension about what Metro is. What's happening, Julia?
Okay. So you might have seen over social media and announced by Metro that Metro is planning to close down a section of the Red Line for, quote, necessary repairs. The shutdown runs from December 18th through the 30th in December. Basically, Farragut North, Metro Center, and Gallery Place are going to be shut down through then. And then Judiciary Square is going to be shut down from December 22nd to the 24th. They're going to run all these free shuttles between the stops every 6 to 8 minutes to counteract the fact that this is a really busy section of the Red Line and people need to be able to get from place to place on it. So they're trying to alleviate some of that pressure. The issue comes because the DC BID, the Business Improvement District, wants Metro to delay this closure because they think it's going to affect businesses in the region. They want to have it shut down in January. They say that there's a potential loss in the district's sales tax revenue in the ballpark between $3 million and $6 million. That's a lot of money. Basically, Metro chose the dates because they said that ridership in December, at least late December, is typically reduced by about like 40% because schools and offices are closed for the holidays. No one's going to work. No one's really in the city going downtown, or so they say. But basically, this is about like, who is Metro for? Is it for like business interests, or is it for like students and workers? And they got to make these repairs sometime. So when is the time to do it?
So it's like, would you rather inconvenience consumers, or would you rather inconvenience students and commuters and like people who schlep into the office?
I think the short answer is it's going to inconvenience everybody no matter when you do it.
Well, not really. I mean, if you have to take the red line to school
Sure,
and school's on vacation, it's no skin off your nose.
for sure. But I think generally shutting down the Metro, like it does inconvenience everybody who needs it. Like it inconveniences workers who have to be there during Christmas hours, which like a lot of us don't work during Christmas, but there is still a fair amount of people who do work during Christmas.
But it goes back to like when they built Metro. The idea was we are building this system to bring the federal workforce into town
Yes.
at the beginning of the workday and bring them out of town at the end of the workday. The idea this is not like for entertainment. It's not to go to parties or visit your friends. It's really first and foremost a commuter service. So by that logic, just late December is a great time to shut it down. What it's evolved into, though, is a system that a lot of nightlife relies on, that a lot of commerce relies on, with a lot of things that don't operate on 9 to 5, a lot of jobs that don't operate on 9 to 5 rely on, and like we're seeing this evolved meaning of Metro kind of play out in real time, which I think is super interesting. Who do you think is going to win this?
I don't know. I mean, I think the BID is going to win this. I think their argument is really, really strong. Like $3 to $6 million, and obviously those are pretty high projections. Like that is a lot of money, especially for an area where, again, Mayor Bowser has said she wants to bring back downtown. She wants to get people shopping and into businesses and stuff like that. And that area happens to have that Christmas market area.
I mean, wait a minute though. Like the city's budget is enormous. $3 to $6 million is not actually that much money in the pool of a budget the size of the district.
Sure, but to me it seems like a lot of money. I don't know, Teo. Like, what do you think is gonna happen here? Because I imagine that you have done some reporting on this and seen like, yes, Metro has to shut down for a little bit.
I mean, that's a great question. I know certainly in Northern Virginia, like, I mean, if you think about like the yellow line, right, how long was that closed for? Like the better part of a year, right? So at a certain point, you just sort of have to kind of grin and bear it. I hear the arguments, but like at the end of the day, if it's the type of thing that, helps sustain Metro like the rest of the year, I guess it just depends on the arguments that the decision makers in this case find most compelling.
I think having that stuff break and lead to disaster, that would be pretty sucky for tax revenue whenever it happens.
Exactly.
If the Metro collapses, you can't get to the Christmas market, right?
It's true.
So
This episode is brought to you by Klaviyo, the platform that powers smarter digital relationships. With Klaviyo, you can activate all your customer data in real time, connect seamlessly with your customers across all channels, guide your marketing strategy with AI-powered insights, recommendations, and automated assistance, deliver experiences that feel individually designed at scale, and grow your business faster. Power smarter digital relationships with Klaviyo. Learn more at klaviyo.com/Spotify. That's KLAVIYO.com/Spotify.
Rehearsals for the school play were really coming along.
Bigger smile, Mr. Squirrel?
Until a custodian accidentally threw away the costumes.
Oh no.
Everyone was rattled. Miss Garrity forgot how to play. And the Queen of the Hedgehogs almost quit.
Find a new queen!
But replacement costumes were shipped with FedEx. And with added peace of mind from picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
All right, so wait, speaking of Christmas markets, we are joined now by Alex Frioli from Heurich House, which is a sponsor of CityCast, when we are going to have a sponsored segment talking about their historic house's annual Christmas market, which starts tonight and goes through Sunday. Alex, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
We, that is Team CityCast, will all be at the market this evening.
Woo!
People should definitely pop by to say hi, but they should also come to see all the other cool things they can buy. What are you selling?
Yeah, so Christmas Market has evolved over the last decade from a very small Christmas pop up into a key incubator for small local businesses in Washington, D.C. What you can find there is local artists and craft. So when you think about what does that mean, you can find people such as ceramicists, leather workers, woodworkers, jewelry makers, printmakers. So really a lot of handcrafted goods that are all locally produced here in Washington, D.C.
So we did an episode with Cornelia Poco on Monday about all the different Christmas markets around DC.
Yeah.
What makes the Heurich houses so special? What's the atmosphere like compared to everything else?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it is a really magical setting. So it is in the backyard of a historic Victorian mansion that was handcrafted by local artisans from the 1890s. So we take their legacy, which is a storied legacy in Washington, D.C., where you can basically walk through the gates, which were completely made from ironwork that have lots of details. And it's really beautiful. And you can experience what is that in modern day. And so you see a lot of those makers that I previously mentioned. Their work a lot of times is inspired by that historic craftsmanship.
So are there any specific vendors that you personally are excited about? Like, I know I have a lot of local art hanging on my walls and I am always looking for more. I think I have a problem. It's okay. Is there anyone you're particularly excited about?
So as somebody who runs our small business program, I hate to play favorites, but I can tell you from a general sense why it's important to support these people and why they're all really great to support. We're a nonprofit, and so this is our largest fundraiser, and it allows us to do small business programming for small scale manufacturers in Washington, D.C. throughout the entire calendar year. So when we talk about small businesses or specifically the makers, which is its own sect of the small business community in Washington, D.C., we're talking about a lot of people who have maybe started their business part-time. We're talking about a lot of people from underrepresented communities who are trying to create additional income or trying to find their way into the middle class. We always talk about how manufacturing is one of the quickest ways to become part of the middle class. So this year it's our highest number yet, but we hand selected 93% of our vendors self-identify as coming from underrepresented communities. So we're talking about people who are, women and non-binary people, immigrants, people of color, and queer people. We've also done mini markets, which are a free sales platform throughout the calendar year. So those businesses, a lot of them have grown from taking experience from doing these free markets and grown their businesses over the year so that they can join us at Christmas Market. And so we see 9 of the people who have been incubated through those programs now participating in Christmas Market. So we see a true evolution of small business life cycle here at the Heurich House Museum.
But so give us the specifics. When exactly is it happening? Days, hours, addresses, how to get there. The metro will still be open this weekend. So just to be clear.
Yeah. So we're just a block away from the DuPont Circle Metro, so it's super easy to get to. The address for the market is 1307 New Hampshire Avenue. So again, right in the middle of DuPont. I highly suggest not driving because that neighborhood will be extremely busy during that day. There's a lot of holiday pop-ups going on in DuPont. It happens, like you said, starting today and it goes through Sunday. Tickets are available at the door. They are $14. Like I said, it's a fundraiser. So all of that money goes back to supporting small businesses all year long in Washington, D.C. Some other free things once you buy your ticket are if you have kids, we have a free kids craft. There will be free tastings of our historic revival of Senate beer on Saturday. We have the traditional Glühwein, which is a warm spiced mulled wine. Also at the market, you'll be able to talk with our museum curator, Jenna, so you can learn a little bit more about the historic craftspeople and about the history of the Heurich home and the Heurich brewery. Hope to see you all at the Christmas market and support small businesses with us this holiday season.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for being here. Looking forward to seeing you tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be really great to have you all there.
And thank you, Teo, for being here.
Happy to be here.
If you're at that market, come say hi to us.
Seriously.
Julia, awesome to see you.
Mike, pleasure as always.
that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our executive producer is Priyanka Tilve. Our producer is Julia Karen. Our newsletter writer is Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. Our production assistant is Susanna Brown. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, why not craft your own handcrafted, artisanal CityCast souvenir item and then give it to us for free. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.
The house used to be open during Christmas market, so I don't want people to think it's open this year because it's not.
The party in Alex's office, everybody.